Somewhere around 1995 or 1996, I met Gerald Stewart. He was giving a seminar representing Johnny Stewart Game Calls, which was his father. And he talked about inadvertently calling in hogs while calling predators, and he even went as far as to develop a sound called feeding frenzy to call in hogs, and he had had some success with it, though limited. Well, I knew there had to be a way to call hogs, and I kept trying, and of course my skills improved as a hog hunter and the population improved. There were just a lot of factors involved in putting more hogs in front of me. In 2006, I believe it was in September, I gained access to a piece of property that was just severely overgrown. You couldn't even hardly get in there. It was limited access, to say the least. And Michelle and I were sitting on a levee one day, and we could hear a lot of hog commotion going on. There was grunting and squealing and just nearly like roaring sounds coming out of there. We couldn't figure out how to get to them, so we just sat there with the camera running in hopes that one of them would come by. And it was at that point that I realized what we were hearing was a boar courting a sow that wasn't quite ready to breed. Well, during this process, we noticed from all directions there were different boars coming in, and they would get down in there, and that old boar would put them out of there in a heartbeat. Well, we continued to record those sounds, and that night when I got home, I played those sounds back over and over and over again over the television, where I could have loudspeakers and hear it. And I did it until Michelle was sick of hearing pigs squeal and grunt. Well, I mimicked those sounds with just an average grunt tube. It had a little bigger tube than normal, so it was easy to blow. And I copied those sounds and mimicked those sounds and tried to reproduce them the best I could. And I had no idea whether or not it would ever work. A few weeks later, in October of 2006, I was sitting in a deer stand during archery season, and the previous 12 years I had taken home every animal I'd shot at with my bow, so I was getting pretty good with the bow. And my game trail was just 6 yards from my stand, and I draw a fairly light bow because I wanted to use one Michelle could draw too. So I was sitting there just dreaming of the next world-class archery killed buck, and I could hear pigs fighting off in the distance, and I thought, well, I may try to grunt them in. Well, a few minutes later, about 60 yards out, a boar ran through like the devil himself was chasing him. I grabbed that grunt tube and I started mimicking those sounds, and within seconds this big old spotted boar come in there, just slobber pouring out of his mouth and all down his chest, and I was so shook up I couldn't draw my bow. There he was, 6 yards from me, and I couldn't even draw my bow. So he ran off, and I grunted to him again, and he came right back to that exact same spot. And I missed him just slicker than you can miss anything. Just shot right over him. So I thought, well, I'll try one more time. I re-knocked another arrow, and the arrow I shot at him is sticking out of the ground. And he comes running back a third time. Sticks his nose right to that arrow and smells my scent on that arrow, and he leaves. And there's no calling him back at this point. Well, a few days later, I went back into that same area with a rifle, and I called in several hogs while standing in one spot, but I killed 7 of them. Man, I was so excited to share that information. I put it on the internet, and I called it 7 in 1. I called in 7 hogs at one time. Well, you wouldn't believe the commotion that post caused. I was called everything in the book. I was told I was lying. I was making stuff up. I was even banned from one website, a hog hunting forum of all things, for claiming that I could call hogs, like I was trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes. And I just couldn't understand it. You can call in deer, you can call in elk, you can call in moose, you can call ducks, you can call predators of all kinds. What would make people think that you couldn't call in a hog? They're one of the most vocal animals that there is. And it was just incredible to me that there were that many people willing to attack something that they didn't understand. Well, a couple more years would roll by, and I kept calling hogs with the grunt tube, and I was getting pretty good at it, and I bumped into Larry Wysoon. Larry was a Texas Parks and Wildlife biologist way back in the 70s, and He worked with a guy called John Vandiver, I believe. And he said that John started teaching him how to call in hogs in the 70s, like I think from 70 to 74, using various grunts and squeals. And so, you know, it finally dawned on me that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't the only person out there that was able to do this. This guy had been successful at it. So I continued playing with different sounds and recording sounds in the wild, and I carried it to a whole nother level. I captured a piglet that was approximately 2 weeks old, and I learned quite a bit from him, but he wasn't gentle enough that I could really learn what I wanted to learn. So one night while out hunting, I shot a big sow, and you could tell it was very obvious she was ready to give birth right then. I figured I had about 3 minutes to work before they ran out of oxygen because her heart had stopped. And so I cut her open, and she had 6 piglets in her. Michelle and I shook them and shook them and shook them, and we finally got 3 to breathe. Well, one died within minutes, and the other 2 survived. And so I learned quite a bit from those guys over the years. And Porky is the one that I kept and I still have, and he'll be 8 years old this October. Well, this month. So anyway, I've learned a lot from them and recorded a lot of sounds, and I've singled out at least 12 different vocalizations, and there's a few more that I'm not sure of yet. I've still got some studying to do. It's an ongoing process, and I've been very successful at calling in hogs with both grunt tubes and electronic calls. I've developed my own line of sounds to use calling these hogs, and at this point in time, as to my knowledge, I've captured more called hogs on video than anybody else in the world. And it's just an incredible rush when they come into a call. It's very similar to predator calling. They're gonna try to circle downwind, and it's just something I'd like to share with everybody. So in the near future, I'm going to come out with a series of videos teaching people how to find areas to call hogs, and hopefully, you know, a lot of people will have success. So we're going to go now and look at a few video clips of hogs coming into a call, and see for yourself. Believe it or not, it works. If you want to try it, try it. If you don't, don't. But it is a very useful tool in hog hunting. It's not one that you need to rely solely on. There are so many other methods of hunting hogs, but this one gives me the most satisfaction. Okay, today we're going to demonstrate how you call hogs. Not that kind of hog. Now take one on. Take that ring. Let him keep coming. that for close?
Hog Zombies is made possible by the following sponsors: EOTech, transform your arsenal. Convergent Hunting Solutions, where experience, innovation, and passion meet.
Alamo Precision Rifles, the best rifles this side of the Pecos. APRifles.com.
Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. Pink's Paint and Body, Decatur, Texas. Mallory Orthodontics, MalloryOrtho.com. 2K Pawn and Gun, Decatur, Texas.
Carrillo and Tibbles, Attorney at Law.
Honest and fair legal representation. Presented by KEMP Media Dynamics.